What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the German Bear Podcast. And today we got some amazing news about the Chicago Bears and the number one overall pick in the 2023 draft. The Chicago Bears did it, guys. They did clinch the number one overall pick in the 2023 draft, and this adds tons of more value than the number two overall pick. And this is an absolute insane and perfect outcome for that 2023 tank season of the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields still available, but they were able to secure that number one overall pick. They did just lose against the Minnesota Vikings 29-13, but we still had some nice plays in that game. I want to talk about that in a second, but overall, that Texans and Colts game that ultimately sealed the deal for the Bears having that number one overall pick was absolutely amazing. Lovie Smith did it one more time for the Chicago Bears, giving us that number one overall pick with a 32-31 overall win of the Texans in an insane thriller where on that last drive, overall, that entire game was absolutely insane. I just watched it and went crazy on every single play, but Davis Mills earlier in the third quarter, I think it was, threw two interceptions that led to a late lead from the Colts, and that ultimately ended in a very, very interesting ending with the Texans then having a final shot at winning that game and giving the Bears that number one overall pick. And I absolutely couldn't comprehend what happened in that last drive. They went for it two times on fourth down and completed the first one. And on the second one, they threw it into the end zone. And I think it was tight end Jordan Akins who caught it, which was absolutely insane in the first place. And then they went for two to get that win, and they did it once again to Jordan Atkins. And man, what a insane ending to a very important game for that Bears franchise. Now, overall, that's it for the Colts-Texans game, but overall, that means so much for the Chicago Bears moving forward. That number one pick gives us so much more leverage to trade with other teams. That increases the value by a lot. That number two to number one overall pick switch is definitely a big impact on the Bears draft implications. When you look at it, there's still Will Anderson on the board. You have Jalen Carter. You have so many talented players that will probably slip because you have so many good quarterbacks in this draft class. And this year, especially, have so many quarterback needy teams, Colts being one of them. And that definitely helped them because they now have the opportunity to get in front of their division rival, the Texans, to trade with the Chicago Bears and get a very talented quarterback in front of them. And the Texans are a QB needy team too. So that's such a huge scenario for the Bears, and I can't wait and see what the Bears do with that on draft day. But this should be a huge franchise changing number one overall pick. We got our quarterback of the future in Justin Fields, and now you can just easily trade down, let the other teams pick a quarterback, and then later still pick a elite defensive lineman, a elite wide receiver, whatever it is, and really build a great foundation for the future. But now we can definitely expect probably 2 to 3 picks more in a package to get that number one overall pick from the Bears, and this feels absolutely amazing. And overall, I'm just so happy that the Bears season ended like that. It was a rough season. It was not a lot of fun to watch the Bears in tons of games. Justin Fields really made it some great ones, but overall it was really tough to watch the entire season. The Bears are now officially 3-14, finished with a very bad record. I think it's even a franchise record, losing, was it 14 games in a row actually? I'm not 100% sure on it, but overall, just quickly want to talk about the Chicago Bears-Minnesota Vikings game too, the last game of the season. I didn't really do recaps. I'm still thinking of if I should do a film room episode or not on this one because we had some wide receivers that played some big time. But overall, who stood out to me today still in the last regular season game for the Chicago Bears in 2022? I think definitely Velus Jones Jr. had a big time game. Loved what he did. Had one reception for 28 yards and one run for 42 yards and some couple of good returns in there too. So he's really coming along, and I'm absolutely loving it. I think he can be a very productive and versatile offensive weapon for the Bears in 2023 and the future. So love that he did some good things late in the season. Chase Claypool also ran some very nasty routes. The one where Duke Shelley intercepted, I think, Tim Boyle. He really just cooked him, ran a really well route, and then just Tim Boyle underthrew it, and Duke Shelley was able to intercept that. But he showed some good stuff. Cole Kmet, 4 receptions, 56 147 yards, 1 touchdown. Love this one. And then also from the other guys on the defense, I think Jaquan Brisker absolutely balled out. Greg Stroman with a great interception on, I think, Nick Mullins. And overall, I think it was an acceptable performance against a 13-4 Vikings team to close out the season. Obviously, it was mostly backups then by the end of it, especially in the second half. But I think, especially with that Texans win over the Colts in that scenario, that was absolutely a beautiful and very successful ending to the Bears season. And I can't wait and see, like I said, what they do in 2023 with that pick. Now, overall for the channel, I will definitely do tons of film room still on the current season, right? I still want to get some player reviews out there. I want to recap the 2022 season, obviously, but the draft content is definitely coming up, and it will be super interesting because the Bears, I can't believe it, have the #1 overall pick in this draft, and this is such an exciting time to be a Bears fan, even though we just went 3-14. I think the future is really bright. We got so much cap space coming up into 2023. We can spend lots of money into the free agency, re-sign some key players, and then just spend big, built through the draft. This is what Ryan Poles wants to do, and that #1 overall pick definitely will help moving forward for him to accomplish that goal of building through the draft. We got so many options now. We can also just trade some picks for some players, for some wide receivers, for some defensive linemen. It's such a open table now with that pick. I mean, I would have loved the #2 overall pick too. Like, don't get me wrong, but #1 overall just feels absolutely great. And what a great job by the Bears of executing that. I think they did not try to do it because everybody wants to win in this league, especially players and coaches. But I love how it turned out, and that's an absolute massive dub for the Bears ending this season and Ryan Poles, the general manager. So with that, that's the end of the 2022-23 season for the Chicago Bears. It was tons of fun. I will do a separate video on the entire season later on the next couple of weeks or maybe in February, so definitely stay tuned for that. But overall, that's the end of the video, guys. I just wanted to give you a quick little update. Definitely let me know in the comments down below what you think of the Bears securing that #1 overall pick. Like and subscribe if you liked the video. Check out Instagram and Twitter if you want to as well. And as always, guys, bear down.